Times have changed, and in 2023, it's easier than ever to start a podcast with high-quality audio and video and AI editing tools that can edit an hour-long podcast in like less than 5 minutes.
No freaking way.
Your podcast and socials will explode, which can turn into a full-time income. So in this video, I'm going to take my years of experience in radio and podcast at iHeartRadio and my content creation journey to present you a 5-step framework that I would follow if I were starting a podcast from scratch in 2023. Starting with choosing a topic and publishing frequency. The number one thing that you should drive your topic choice on is how you're going to provide value to your audience. What unique story, information, or education can you provide to the people that are listening to you? Once you've decided that, you'll need to decide how consistent or what frequency you're going to be publishing episodes and content at. In order to grow a community and establish your listeners' habits, you need to publish to an audience consistently. Research shows that around half of our daily actions are driven by repetition, so this is probably why behavioral scientists and psychologists have spent so much time writing about how to establish and keep positive habits. When you establish a reliable posting schedule, you give your viewers something to look forward to, a routine that they can count on. Now, you could publish every 2 weeks or on a series basis, for example, 6 episodes every quarter. However, just like when you pursue the beginning of a relationship with someone, you should probably see or interact with your audience at least once a week or maybe more. I'd recommend publishing once a week to be your goal. Now it's time for the fun stuff. We're talking about getting the right equipment for your podcast. You're going to need a microphone, a camera, and most importantly, lighting. There are 3 routes you can take when it comes to equipment: the cheapest, the budget-friendly, and the most expensive. But let's focus on the most budget-friendly with the highest quality. So what microphone should you get? You could get started with something as cheap as earbuds and the microphone that comes with them, but let's step it up a notch. You're going to want a dynamic microphone. These are great for reducing unwanted ambient noise due to their pickup patterns. This essentially means if you're not speaking near or directly to it, the noise will not really get picked up. They're rugged, reliable, and they do a great job of rejecting off-axis noise, which is great if you're recording in a less than ideal environment. I'd use one of these mics: a Shure SM58, a Sennheiser E835, ATR 2100, or a DD VO7U. The Shure SM58 and the Sennheiser is a famous and relatively cheap microphone for the quality. It's often used as a stage mic, and it can take a beating while recording great sound. Plenty of famous podcasts, including The Tim Ferriss Show, which has millions of downloads, use the Shure SM58. Its main difference from the other microphones is that it only has an XLR output, which will matter when we start talking about how we're going to record with these. The ATR 2100 has XLR and USB. The VO7U is USB-C only, and it has great quality too. You really can't go wrong with any of these microphones. Now, bonus tip for audio: consider having a backup audio source like a lav or a shotgun mic. It's not strictly necessary, but it's a good insurance policy to have in case disaster strikes. Now, what about cameras? In 2023, you need to do a video podcast. This is so that you can clip your podcast and post it on socials and get discovered. More on that later. If you're starting out, an iPhone or a MacBook webcam can serve you well, especially if your podcast is done over a video chat. But if you want a significant upgrade in terms of image quality, there are tons of high-quality camera options. You could even get 2 cameras if you want multiple angles. After watching this video, do your own research considering your budget and find the right camera for you. I'd personally recommend a mirrorless camera or 2 and a wide and close-up lens. Here's a major budget tip. If you don't have the budget for 2 cameras, but you want that kind of multi-camera angled look, just make sure to record your podcast in 4K and then crop and post. I linked a video down in the description that explained this in depth, and it's one of the best budget hacks. But make sure you check that out after you finish this video. Now, let's get on to one of the most important parts of building out your podcast setup, and that's how do we make you look beautiful? We're talking about cinematic lighting. You could use natural light, but then you'd be susceptible to lighting changes during your recording or a lack of exposure. I'd recommend a soft key light. Now, a key light is just a fancy word for your strongest and main source of light. There are tons of options when it comes to this. You'll need something that's versatile, providing a soft and even light that can be controlled easily. With a lantern modifier, you can have 1 light for 2 people, and with a light dome, you can have a soft and directional light source for 1 person. I'd recommend bicolor lights, so you can tweak your lights as much as you want to match the color temperature of any fixtures that are in your background, like practical bulbs or candlelight, whatever you got going on in the background. If you want a deep dive on how to set up your lights or a lighting tutorial, check out my interview lighting setup tutorial down in the description. Now, if budget permits, add more lights to fill or accentuate your shots. A light setup like an Amaran CLB with a lantern or a light dome would be my top choice as a key light. If you're recording at a desk, an Amaran P60X could be a perfect fit. Just screw it onto a desk mount and adjust your color temperature, and you're in business. All right, now you know what gear you need, but how are you gonna record this amazing content? What's your recording workflow going to be? This process depends on the number of people on your podcast. You'll need a portable recorder, and if you're planning on having guests, you'll need multiple separate audio channels. This is a major key about separate audio channels because everyone sounds different when they're talking to a mic, and you'll want to adjust people's settings individually to get the best sound. I would keep things simple and use an external recorder like a Zoom H6 and an SD card. It has multiple channels and settings to get the best audio quality on the go. And if you're going the USB route, you can use software like Audacity or Adobe Audition for recording. You'll still need a laptop or two depending on how you're feeding that audio into the computer. If you're recording a video chat or a remote video call, you might default to using Zoom as your recorder. I highly recommend checking out Riverside FM for high quality remote interviews. This is an amazing software that will make sure you have the highest quality video recordings and audio recordings for your podcast. But what are we gonna do with that recording? What's our editing workflow going to be? What if I told you AI could edit your hour-long podcast in less than 10 minutes? Well, it can.
No freaking way.
It's absolutely amazing. I remember taking hours to edit interviews for my own podcast and also iHeartMedia's radio shows and podcasts. Now you can edit multicam podcasts and videos in seconds. The only caveat is you must be using Adobe Premiere Pro as your video editing software. This is the video editing software I'd recommend though, and chances are you can get it on a student discount too, which will cost you about $20 a month for literally every Adobe app. After using Autopod, all you have to do from here is cut out any topics that you didn't like and maybe add some graphics. Easy. If you're finding value in this so far, hit that like button because it helps with the YouTube algorithm and it'll let me know that you want to see more content like this. And hit that subscribe button. Don't worry, I'll wait. Okay, the next AI editing tool that I would use is this AI audio mastering website called Auphonic. This tool will take your audio from sounding like this all the way to sounding like this. Gone are the days of needing to be an absolute audio pro to get good audio. As long as your audio was recorded at a reasonable level, this software will EQ, compress, and apply all of that magic to make your audio sound nice. You may be able to have a little bit better product by manually tweaking or editing your audio, but this is a high quality, quick, and budget solution. All right, now how are we going to make social clips for our podcast? We can obviously edit them manually while we're editing the full episode, but there's also some AI tools that can help edit these social clips. Autopod, amongst other AI tools, can help create small clips from your 16:9 podcast and clip them for vertical formats. With the current state of social media, you can take these vertical clips and post them nearly on every platform to see what pops. Personally, I'd recommend at least posting for your podcast 3 times a week. We grew Amaranth's Instagram from 0 to 100,000 followers in under a year by posting 3 times a week. So I'd say start there and then scale up. Now, how do we get this podcast onto Apple, Spotify, and any of your other favorite platforms? I highly recommend Anchor for this. It's user-friendly, and what's great about it is it distributes your podcast to multiple platforms. This will maximize your reach, and voila, whether you're going solo or collaborating with a friend, these are the steps that I would take if I were to start a podcast in 2023. If you found this useful, you should check out this interview lighting setup tutorial over here. It's gonna help your podcast look even better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.